Ladies and gentlemen, your YouTube luchador weighing in at more weight than he probably should have, at a height at 5'5". This is Vargas! Welcome once again to the squared circle. This is the Vargas, your Mexican brawler, back again with a wrestling review. Yes, 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 I am back. After watching this DVD, I am back recording a review video because I haven't done too many of these. I think I've only done two. The most recent one, the Ric Flair Ultimate Collection. But I wanted to talk about this DVD set that I just watched, and it is the history of the WWE 50 years of World Wrestling Entertainment. And on the cover here, I wanted to share the cover. It has a 50 with a nice little glossy finish here. Almost kind of pops out. And it has some of the superstars that have been part of WWE. Bruno Sammartino, Triple H, Sergeant Slaughter, Vince McMahon Sr., Andre, Superfly, Jimmy Snuka, Stone Cold, Steve Austin, Trish Stratus, Bret the Hitman Hart, The Undertaker, I think that's Junkyard Dog, yeah, Junkyard Dog, Edge, John Cena, CM Punk, Rey Mysterio, Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon, Vincent McMahon, The Rock, Shawn Michaels, Hulk Hogan, yep, it's Ric Flair, the Fabulous Moolah, Mankind, and more. And on the back, you have again Bruno Sammartino, Hogan versus Andre from WrestleMania 3, Triple H, The Rock, and John Cena. And this is a three-disc set running at 6.5 hours. Produced, when was this produced? It actually doesn't say. 2013. So this DVD set came out in 2013. And it's a 3-disc set. Oop, dropped an insert there. On the first part, you have the 50 years of WWE. Right there. And you open it up, and you have the disc description for disc 1, disc 2, disc 3. Disc 1 has the documentary, 50 years of WWE. Disc 2 and disc 3. So these 3-disc sets are pretty cool. They, for the most part, do include a documentary on the first disc, and then a couple of matches that represent whatever the set is about. Since this is the history of WWE, the first disc is a documentary from the start of WWF, when the father, Vince McMahon Sr., was the owner, and up to the point where his son, Vince McMahon Jr., Vincent Kennedy McMahon, also known as Mr. McMahon, took over the company to how they started out, the big risk of WrestleMania, because before that, there was never something as huge as that before. It's been mentioned before, and it's mentioned in the documentary, that this was a big risk for the McMahon family. They had to, invest a lot of money, take a lot of risks with the first WrestleMania, and if that would not have worked, then the whole thing, then there would be no WWE today. It was a big risk, and it paid off, and it became a phenomenon, and just skyrocketed wrestling. And I remember that. I remember that WrestleMania. I didn't get to see it, of course, because we couldn't afford pay-per-views, but I do remember watching TV, and as I remember, it was WWE Superstars that started showcasing Mr. T and Hulk Hogan, and they would fight Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff, and it was really cool. And that's I started watching wrestling because of Superstars, and I saw those segments. I wish I could have seen the first WrestleMania, but I didn't. But it's what got me into wrestling, and that was pretty cool. And it's actually documented here in disc one. I'll read you what this one has. It's the beginnings. Bruno Sammartino, the Northwest, stars of the 70s, Titan Takeover, Hulkamania. That's when I started watching, when Hulkamania was going strong, saying your prayers, eating your vitamins, and, when they were promoting WrestleMania 1, which is the next one, the first WrestleMania. Then the other one I was really hyped besides WWE Superstars was Saturday Night's Main Event. I watched. It was the rare times when my parents actually let me stay up late to watch WWF's Saturday Night's Main Event, and I liked that because it had a big show feel, and it was on television. You could watch some really awesome fights, and the one that stands out the most in my memory is the one where Andre the Giant was facing Hulk Hogan, and the referee came in and gave the victory to Andre the Giant, but then a second referee that looked just the same was disputing it, and then it was a big thing. So that's the one I remember the most, because there was a title change in Saturday Night's Main Event. Then it goes to WrestleMania 3, where Andre the Giant fought Hulk Hogan, and Hulk Hogan, the slam heard around the world, where Hogan slammed Andre the Giant, even though Andre the Giant had already been slammed in other countries like Japan, and in Mexico, Connect, the Mexican luchador, had slammed Andre the Giant. So, but still, it was pretty cool to see it in that big of a stage. Then the pay-per-view expansion, because that's when they started releasing SummerSlam, then the Royal Rumble, then Survivor Series, and all the other pay-per-views. But the big four are, my favorites, which is just WrestleMania, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, especially the Royal Rumble. It's WrestleMania, then Royal Rumble, and Survivor Series. No, SummerSlam. SummerSlam's the other one. Then Steroid Trial, it also touches upon the big controversy that, WWE, one of the major things that WWE had to get over was, the hurdles they had to get over was the steroid trial, where, for 2 years, the government was crashing down on WWE because, some of the wrestlers were using steroids, and, Vince McMahon was probably going to do jail time because of steroid distribution to his wrestlers, so that was a big thing. And a lot of wrestlers, testified against him. Some other ones testified for him. And in the end, they got through that, and the company still existed. But I remember that was a big thing back in the day. Then the new generation, when a lot of their old wrestlers jumped ship to WCW, they had to. It was a blessing, of course, because they had to push the talent that they had. So. Gone were because of the steroid trial. Gone were the big muscular guys. They focused more on technical guys like Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, and especially Bret Hart. Bret Hart carried that company for a good while, and that was a pretty good period. I kept watching because it was a lot of fun. Then the creation of the Monday Night Raw. I didn't watch as much of Raw because it was on cable. The one I did see was SmackDown, and that's also touched upon here. Then, of course, the other hurdle that WWE had to get over was the Monday Night War, where WCW had brought in all of the talent of WWE: Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Brutus Barber Beefcake, Bret Hart, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash. All of these guys were jumping ship to WCW because they had, were offered a lot of money. and WWE was suffering because of it. But on the next one is the Montreal screw job, and that's what changed the world of WWE, because Vince McMahon was outed as the owner, even though, if you followed the news trial, you already knew that. But as a character, it outed Vince McMahon, and it created the Mr. McMahon character, because now he could come into the light and be like, I'm the boss and I'm evil, and that also created by many people the best part of WWE, and what gave WWE an advantage over WCW was the rivalry between Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin, and of course that led to the Attitude Era with DX and the bras and panties match, which was kind of demeaning toward women, but when you're a teenager and you watch that's still pretty cool because they have beautiful women. But of course, Mankind, the Hell in the Cell, and everything. The tragedy in Kansas City, of course, is another thing where Owen Hart passed away after doing a high-flying stunt entrance that he was going to do. I think, if I remember correctly, he was going to replicate the Shawn Michael entrance, where he was going to be from the roof and then just slide down to the ring. But he fell, hit his head with a turnbuckle, and died the same day. And that I remember that was pretty bad. The creation of SmackDown, the expansion, the brand extension. It also talks about when Vince McMahon purchased WCW, and had access to all of the wrestling back catalog. WrestleMania stadiums, they showcase also how they've only gotten bigger, and they've filled out the stadiums as they do the WrestleManias, because WrestleManias is like the biggest. It's the Super Bowl of wrestling. Even though I enjoy it more than the Super Bowl, it's just this grandiose show. Some of the WrestleManias haven't been as good as others. Everyone will admit to that. But it's still, when I mentioned this before, when WrestleMania season picks up, I get excited about wrestling again. It starts at the Rumble and finishes at WrestleMania, because that's when they try to get their A game going, and they, really push the storylines and the wrestling, and everything pays off at WrestleMania. Then it talks about the Hall of Fame, the movie studios that WWE did, with the first movie I think was See No Evil, and talking about 50 years. And then the other two discs have matches: Bruno Sammartino versus superstar Billy Graham, Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant, the very first Royal Rumble match in 1988, the first episode of Raw with Koko Beware versus Yokozuna, King of the Ring Finals, Jake the Snake versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, WWE Championship match, Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels in this 3, Tyson versus Austin, Triple H versus The Rock, McMahon announces the purchase of WCW, The Rock versus Hollywood Hogan. I remember the hype to that, and I saw it after the fact, and that was pretty cool, because that was something I didn't think would happen. After Hogan went to WCW and he didn't want to come back to the company, and all of a sudden he came back, and he had this feud with The Rock in WrestleMania X8 in 2002, and the Hogan was the heel, but the crowd turned him into the face. So the crowd was booing The Rock and cheering Hogan, and Hogan got like, well, fuck it, I'll do my old shit, and he started doing the Hulkamania things, and then the crowd went wild, and so I thought it was really cool to see Hogan back in WWE. Then the Battle of the Billionaires, which had Bobby Lashley representing Donald Trump against Umaga representing Vince McMahon. So President Trump was part of WrestleMania history. Then the 8-man tag team match, John Cena, Batista, and Rey Mysterio versus Chris Jericho, Big Show, and Randy Orton in tribute to the troops. CM Punk speaks his mind, and number 1 contender match for WWE Championship, John Cena versus CM Punk. So the match, for the most part, the match selection is pretty cool. They could have put more iconic matches in this thing, but the documentary is cool. The documentary was well. Yeah, in this one, WWE is kind of inflating, especially at the end where they're talking about all the charity work that they do and everything. It also talks about when they they became a publicly traded company and everything. But so yeah, you could consider it a bit of ego stroking that they're saying how great and wonderful we are, but for the most part, it's true that they really are the biggest wrestling company out there. Uh, a lot of people will debate whether or not they're still the best, because a lot of people are really liking Ring of Honor and New Japan Wrestling. And here in Mexico we have our luchadors, but as far as shows and spectacles go, while New Japan Wrestling is getting there, nothing really tops WWE as far as the history and the shows and the spectacle and getting people hyped. At least wrestling fans get hyped with WrestleMania. So I know a lot of people that are wrestling fans, and a lot of people know WWE more than they know other stuff. So you can't you can complain about the product, the terrible booking that they sometimes do, the fact that they don't push new talent as well as they should. Bray Wyatt. But nothing can take away from the legacy of WWE. So this is pretty cool, and it has a lot of interviews. It interviews Roddy Piper, Bret Hart, and something that really surprised me is they interviewed The Undertaker as Mark Calloway, not as the Dead Man. So it's kind of weird to see, The Undertaker talk like a person, not like a dead man. But I like this documentary. I thought it was pretty cool. Again, the match selection is questionable. They could have had more iconic matches, like I don't know, Hogan and The Ultimate Warrior was a more iconic match, but still pretty cool. I would definitely recommend it if you can get it. It's a 3-disc set. Came out in 2013. I don't know if it's out of print or if it's available. There are also, one moment because I dropped the insert. There's also a book of the 50 years of WWE, so you might want to track that one down. But all in all, I like it. If I had to score this, I would give it an 8.5. Again, the documentary is pretty cool, except in the end where they're kind of like stroking their ego there. But the first part is awesome, and the match selection is 50-50. Some good matches, some questionable entries, but all in all, a solid 8.5. So, thanks so much for watching my review of the history of WWE, 50 years of sports entertainment. Thank you so much to each and every one of my viewers and YouTube friends that support my channel for this long. This was the Vargas, your Mexican brawler, thanking you all from the squared circle in the Vargas Vault. And until I see you next time, this is Vargas!